My name is Greg Miller. I'm the founder and chairman of the Land Cruiser Heritage Museum in Salt Lake City, and it's been my pleasure to curate this collection over the last 10 or 12 years. Here in the museum we have over 100 Land Cruisers ranging from a 1953 BJT all the way through a 2021 Heritage Edition 200 series, and many models in between, many historically significant vehicles, many commercial applications for the Land Cruiser, and it's very fun to share this. We're open to the public, and we've had guests from all around the world come and share this experience with us. The reason that Land Cruisers are so special to me is because when I'm in a Land Cruiser, I'm almost always in a place I love, with people I love, doing what I love. And I have many memories and many friendships and many experiences that are part of my life because Land Cruisers have been a part of my life. And they're just a very special car for me. I love Land Cruisers, and I'm very proud to be associated with them.
Of a few different models too, and that may even be high on that number, maybe more like 4 or 5. So this is one of the more special ones in the museum, even though it's maybe not the most restored and the most beautiful. It's a very special one to have because it predates the name Land Cruiser. So very diverse collection. So everything from starting with the 20 series, and this model here is a very special one. So lots of different models along the way. So we have only series. So really missing wheel. We love to find the wheel. Everyone knows what one is a 30 series. So we have everything from the BJT, the predecessor, to the 20 series, all the way down to 40s, 50s, etc. But we are missing the 30 series, and they do exist. But they were made for a very, very short window, and we don't have one yet. So if you know where one is, please share. Any 30 series we will take. It doesn't matter what it is. So if you know of one hiding anywhere, please do share that information. But a lot of models from different markets, so you'll see South America-centric models. This is a 28 series that has a very unique vent setup on it, not found in any other markets but really Venezuela and South America. And then on the other side, the variety is like a JDM-specific model only. This is a BJ46, and that model only went to the Japan market. It's got the 2B diesel. Of course, you guys are very familiar with the fender mirrors and right-hand drive. And only went to Japan model. These flags, so you look at those motors, that's everywhere that Expedition 7 went, starting in Japan, all the way to the last country in Mexico on the trip around the world. That Greg took the same vehicle, and it's over here, we'll see it, went to all 7 continents. And I know I already told the story once, but that's kind of part of the impetus of the museum, is Greg was able to go to Japan and ceremoniously receive the 2 Land Cruisers that they would be taking on Expedition 7. And while there, Greg sought out to see, how many museums do you think you visited? Went to 3 different museums thinking, I'm going to find this Land Cruiser museum in Japan that has all the Land Cruisers, and didn't find that. So he said, we got to build that. We have to have this place that is the Land Cruiser museum. That's how this started, was that trip to Japan. Right. And since that time, the museum's just continued to collect, and as a better one is found, gets replaced. So it's really gone through a lot of evolution over time and continues to grow. And as you can see now, the kind of outer room in the building, but what do you think the numbers? Greg keeps a very detailed list. So yeah, it's just kind of continued to evolve. The goal isn't to have one of every color and one of every model and one of every trim level, because as you know, that is thousands of different vehicles, right? So the goal is to have one of every series, one of every iteration in the series. So you've got early 40, mid 40, late model 40, but then one of every motor as well, but not all in the same vehicles, but that way you can just really share. And one of the big goals of the museum is people can come, and Land Cruiser enthusiasts can come and look and take photos and see what it should look like if they're building their own, or just learn about all the different models. So it's become quite the education piece to come visit. we've had people travel from around the world that are restoring. There's another gentleman in Australia restoring a BJT. He hasn't visited yet, but I sent him probably 200 or 300 photos of that one with tape measure measurements because his whole back was rusted out. He wants to restore it. And we had one of the better ones known to exist as far as a survivor. So it's a resource. It's become a giant encyclopedia of information.
Which is exactly what I wanted at the outset. I wanted it to be a living encyclopedia that could be a reference for Land Cruiser enthusiasts around the world.
These are both JDM spec. Very low mile, although this one still has, that is original plastic on the visors. So it's just never even come off. So this one, yeah, very clean. Still, yeah, never taken off. That's original, yeah. So it has very few kilometers. So both of these came from Japan as a really low trim level. I mean, so a lot of really fun ones. This is one kind of an interesting one. We don't know much about this one, and we'd love to learn more. What we know, it's a Japan model, but it was a special service vehicle for some kind of agency in Japan, maybe a forestry agency. Does that color look familiar? Does the government use that on any certain color? Because it's a very special half cab soft top, but built using all factory Toyota parts. And it was built for very heavy duty use because it has like auto grease zerks. So there's like a central grease pump under the hood to grease the grease zerks. It was built for some kind of severe duty, some kind of heavy duty service. But that cap, that half soft top, is never found on anything else, but it's all made of Toyota parts. Yeah, so if you ever hear anything, I'm like, we'd love to know what the variation that is. Yeah, and that color is.
Right.
Keep going. Sure, there's a lot to see. So we moved from the 40 series to the 60 series, but really we jumped over the 55s. And just for the way it works in the layout of the museum, we have the 55, and you saw the JAF Auto Federation one there. But we have all the variations of 60 series, including some really beautiful JDM models with the factory locker, the turbo diesel, but then some really beautiful US models that were all the gasoline variants. And then even a Middle East spec here, so very good diversity. Very good diversity. Yeah, it's kind of fun to see. You get really low trim level, 4-speed manual transmission, or even a bench seat, and then you get like the turbo, the VX and the high trim levels that have everything. You get 5-speed, the nice seats, the power seats, the sunroof. So the 60 series is kind of where they really started taking that luxury leap to making a beautiful luxury vehicle out of it as well. You recognize the 55. These are fun to look at. This was a tour vehicle down in Moab area, which is a very popular off-road location. I think we've talked a little bit about Moab. In fact, I know we have. And two similar platforms, but a very, very clean. And FJ55s globally are pretty rare vehicles. They didn't go to a whole lot of markets. And this one is, in my belief, probably one of the lowest miles and cleanest ones known to exist. So it's a very unique model. And then this one is kind of the opposite of that, a very well used, well loved. Greg found this on KSL of all places, right? Or somebody local.
The man that owned Tag Along Tours, and this vehicle was in his fleet, knew that I was looking for one, and he called one day and said, "Hey, one of my former employees has one that she wants to sell, but if you want it, you better come get it quick." So I drove down and met her, and she wanted $600 for it. And I think I gave her $1,000. It's like, it's worth more than $600. And drove it home.
These vehicles took travelers all over for mountain biking, hiking, river trips, guided tours all over southern Utah. So they had a very severe life in those markets. Yeah. So then just a US spec and a very traditional Australian spec with the non-turbo diesel vinyl seats, so a really low trim level model too. So kind of fun to see all the full dichotomy of it here. And then we start the 70s, so everything from right here all the way down to the end except for one truck is the 70 series. And we've got a very neat collection of the short wheelbase, mid wheelbase, and long wheelbase, all the way from the very early 85, which is the same trim level, all the way to the brand new one. This is a very Australian build, and Greg actually raced this one in the Outback Challenge in Australia. So very, very Australian with the lights on the bumper and Outback. I'm sure you've been to Australia many times too, with lots of Land Cruisers there. So just a really neat Australian build. This is kind of a really neat one here too. Very unique because it's a 4-door BJ74. This was built by Nagoya Diesel.
こんなんあったんだ。
Nagoya Diesel built these as a special order before Toyota had ever made a 4-door 70 series wagon. So very rare. And I know Koyari's visited a lot, like seeing these a lot in action, the mines. And underground mining. This is how, yeah, so this was used underground
Sudbury mine.
up in Canada.
Canadian.
And they just, this is the type of service life they get. They are very, very hard on Land Cruisers underground.
5 years.
Yeah, their typical life expectancy is 5 years. And it's not too common they come to the surface because a lot of times when they're done with them, they'll part them out underground and leave them in the adits underground, backfill them. They won't. In the US, we go to the 100 series.
Right.
And globally, jump to the 100. And the 105, which has the solid axle. So again, really high trim level, all the leather and power.
10.5.
And then 105.
The
yeah,
Aussie
still-
spec?
Yeah, it is an Aussie. Yep. So that's got cloth seats and very, very neat model. And then the VDJ 200 with the diesel, turbo diesel, twin turbo. And that one is also came out of Australia.
120ありますよ。
And then a Heritage Edition. And we need a 120. We just need to track down. So we've
This
got
is 120.
that 150. So we've got,
Oh, 150.
yeah. So we're missing a 120. We'll get one. We need a 120. So we've got a the 290s and a 150 series Prado.
You can find 120.
You can do that. You'll find us a 120. Okay. Yeah. And then the beautiful fire trucks. So we're missing, we have a 40 series that usually goes right here. So but we do have a 40 pickup, 55, 60, 70, and one day we'll have maybe an 80, 100, some of the newer fire trucks as they out of service. Some of those are still being used by fire departments around the world. So that was used. So here's the Expedition 7 vehicles. This one here is it's named Spurway, the vehicle I got named, but that one has been on all 7 continents. That's Greg's truck that he drove around the world, all 7 continents with that vehicle. And then the rest of these were support vehicles that did 6 continents, 4 continents, 3 continents, kind of as support for the expedition. When it went to the south, went to Antarctica, they used this specially prepared Hilux over here built by Arctic Trucks, that's the red Hilux, to go to the South Pole. So physically drove to the South Pole with that vehicle. So a lot of equity tied up into these different vehicles. Very neat vehicles. They're all set up a little differently. The Troopies sleep 2 people inside, so they have all the provisions, cooking, refrigerators, but also sleep 2 people with heater systems. And then the 79 series was set up more as a supply vehicle. Yep, that exact vehicle has been on all 7 continents, so very, very rare vehicle.